Welcome to the Witchy Wit Podcast, episode 12, Social Media. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Witchy Wit Podcast, where we look at life through a witchy lens. I'm Kimberlyn.
I'm Leilani.
At Witchy Wit, we explore current events,
Ideas,
music and books,
and experiences in ways that recognize energy and life in everybody and everything.
We are both real witches.
And we bring two real perspectives through the lens of our different ages,
Races,
and backgrounds.
with a healthy skepticism for what we have been told is true. Our conversations are raw, candid, and vulnerable.
Join us as we cast a spell to uncover what we each know is true in our intuitive, witchy selves.
All right, before we dive into social media, let's just see where we are today. Leilani, what's happening?
So I wanted to check in about how I've been feeling because of, we live in Texas. So we had, I've heard some people call it
Snowvid.
Yes. and like, y'all, listen here. So you and I have both lived where it normally snows, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people, I've heard some people say some things and they're like, we get more snow than that all the time, blah, 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 right? Well, and you and I have lived in those places.
Right.
But as someone who's lived up there where it does snow frequently, consistently, every winter a lot, and then it stays, and then it turns from the fluffy white stuff into like the ugly like blackish brownish
Yes.
masses that have been pushed off the side of a road and all that stuff. I've heard some people say some things about like, oh well, we get stuff like that all the time. Well, like we aren't set up for it down here.
Exactly.
Like we don't have the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have these soaring overpasses that are like ice
Freeze magnets.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So just ask. I'm just asking for a little bit of empathy.
We need a little love here.
Send us a little love down here.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted to check in about was that happened,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a pipe burst in my wall because my exterior walls with water pipes. I mean, my house was built in '83, which is the same year I was born, so my house is not old. But it just froze up like a whatever you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very bad. But I had a pipe burst and my bedroom flooded, and I was really lucky because my partner heard it happen and we ran back there, and it was like there was water on my floor for less than 2 minutes. By the way, I replaced my floors the last week of December.
Your new floor. So there's water on your new
my brand
floors.
new
Your 2-month-old floors.
Yes, and I am a teacher. I'm not rolling in the dough here. Like this is like something that I've worked hard to get to.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, the thing I wanted to share is I just find it interesting. So all this stuff is coming up, and I found it pretty triggering because I have like some drama in my DNA about me not getting my needs met. And then this stuff happens with the floors, and I have a lot of empathy now for people who go through natural disasters because it makes everything really scarce.
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
Our food was scarce. I mean, our electricity and our water were
definitely scarce.
Heat was scarce. But then like plumbers are scarce, right? Because like all these people need plumbers. So the fact that like I can see through my wall from where the water chiseled out my wall, like I can see through my wall. Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. Because like the whole made it like a machine gun of water and just like, and as witches we know water's powerful.
We know
right?
water's powerful. Yes.
And I'm like looking at like, damn, I can see my backyard through my wall.
Oh my gosh.
But like my feeling is just like I constantly am afraid someone is going to take advantage of me. Mm-hmm. So the plumber comes over and he like not the plumber, the flooring contractor comes over, and I'm looking at him like, I just replaced my floors. Like, am I gonna have to replace my floors? And he like kneels down and he puts down this little box, like the size of an Oracle card deck, on the floor, and I'm like, and he's like moving it around, and he's like, there's no moisture under your floor, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, you're liar pants on fire. That is a stud finder. And you are trying to sell me snake oil. No, I don't say this out loud, but that's my first thought, and then I'm like,
what are you selling me here?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
And then like I'm on the phone with insurance, and I'm like ready to go and fight them because I'm like, they haven't even like given me my estimate yet, but I am damn sure that they're going to screw me over.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So part of me knows that I'm really triggered about all this, but then another part of me is like, okay, like maybe this is like a good indication that I could like reevaluate how I enter into interaction with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I totally get that. And you know, so there's that kind of sense of you have to fight for everything, and maybe your life's a little bit easier now. Yeah, I mean, because you have had to fight and struggle and you know, count your pennies and things. So so now you're it's kind of like, you know, things are coming up roses.
They're watered in my bedroom.
Yeah, you're extremely hydrated roses.
Are they growing in my bedroom because they had all the water?
No, I'm sure. I totally get that. Well, this is a wonderful opportunity to explore.
Yes.
Some stuff.
And I think maybe you can relate somewhat too, as a woman living on her own. You know, like it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yes, and historically, contractors and handymen did take advantage of women who didn't know what they were paying for. So, and you know, and the situation I know has dramatically changed, and I'm sure your contractor is a great guy, and that was not the case. But I get feeling on guard and feeling like you have to protect yourself and make sure that someone doesn't, you know, take advantage.
Thank you for hearing me out.
Sure.
I feel better.
I'm good. I'm glad.
Okay, well, what's going on with you?
So, something that started during Snowvid, we had the week off from school, and I pretty much did absolutely nothing. But one of the things that I did do was I used the opportunity to go through a lot of old magazines, and I think I told you a couple of weeks ago that I've been ripping out things. So I have been doing a little bit of collaging and painting in my journal, and it's been so much fun because I don't want to say that I can't paint, but I'll put it, the story that I tell myself is that painting has not been my go-to artistic expression. But collaging, you can use color and line and all of the things that you use in painting if you have the appropriate pictures or whatever, but you can do them in inventive ways, and you can add words and do all of these sort of things. So for people like me who, you know, maybe if I took a few classes, I might get better. But I'm 62 years old. It's like, this is not the hill I want to die on, right? So this is an opportunity for me to be really, really creative and also kind of supportive of the things that I'm journaling about. And so I've just been enjoying collaging, and sometimes I think I mentioned this before. Sometimes just tearing the pictures out and knowing that they're going to be used has kind of an uplifting, motivational effect on me, because I can look at these things and kind of imagine how they might be used and how I might put them together. So collaging, and I for years I knew I liked it and I didn't do it. So this is an opportunity for me to kind of dive in and feel a little crafty.
How do you do the paint with the collage?
So basically what I will do, I'll show you some later when we're no longer recording, but what it depends on the journal. So basically with this type of thing, one of the women in our circle does a lot of this, and she's really, really super good at this, and she showed me how, and I started doing this a couple of years ago, art journaling. So you actually do your journaling, you write in your journal, and then what I do is sometimes I then go over it with maybe extracting some of the important words out of that, and maybe doing that in like a paint, or sometimes I just take a little bit of white and go over part of it and make it kind of look artistic, and then collage, and then maybe use some Mod Podge and collage a couple of pictures on top of that. So it kind of reinforces the sentiment of the original journal entry, though actually you can no longer see the sentiment of it, but it's still there, right? So it's kind of a mystical, magical experiment.
Wow.
It's fun. It's fun, and I feel crafty.
I love that, and I love that the collage plus the paint freeze. Like we sometimes talk about craft anxiety and freezing up because of that. Oh yeah, and there's like, and if let's say I totally screwed it up, it's totally not what I wanted to do, I just paint over it and just do another collage on top of it. It's like the book gets thick, but except for that, there's no wrong thing to do. So I really am enjoying that. That's really cool.
Yeah,
wow.
Thank you. We're talking about social media.
Social media.
Social media.
Dun dun dun.
And we're coming at it from two different perspectives.
Different ages.
Different ages. So different backgrounds. Let's start a little bit with kind of like I wrote down in our outline the OG social media, the original gangsta. And so I remember, oh golly, this had to have been the 80s. I remember using billboards. Are you familiar with or bulletin boards? Are you familiar with that? With
like
those?
the things in the college hallway?
Except electronic, yeah. So kind of like the same idea of a bulletin, a real bulletin, a physical bulletin board. You might put up something.
Mm-hmm.
I need a ride back to New Jersey or something for spring break, and there would be digital ones that you could get to through the interwebs. Or they might actually call it the internet at that point. I don't know, but the World Wide Web. And so that was the first kind of social media, and it, mainly for computer geeks, it would be that kind of stuff. And then after it started, that became a thing. Then people started using it for other topics, but that was and it was all text driven, etc. Okay, so that was I'm just I have nothing to add to that.
And
then the next, there's probably a bunch of stuff in between, but the next one that I remember is IRC, Internet Relay Chat.
This is also brand new to me.
That's actually how I met my ex. Was we were in, so these are topic driven chat rooms, and the closest equivalent that you might remember is AOL had them too.
Oh, okay.
Okay, does that mean like chat rooms? And so you would go in, and it was all text driven. There was no visual, nothing like that, and you would just chat, and there'd be different topics. So I think he and I actually met in I can't even remember now, but I think it was. I remember that night, whatever the topic was, there were 5 of us there. He was in Washington State. I was in New Jersey. There was someone from Denmark, and
Whoa.
The 2 people from Washington State, and another person from Denmark, and someplace else in Europe. And I just remember thinking, wow, I'm talking with people from all of these different far-flung places. Right now we take it for granted.
That's true.
But this was 95,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Because I remember the Sandra Bullock movie, The Net, came out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I got kind of scared. But yeah, so that was that, and so you don't know, billboards, okay?
No,
and okay, MySpace. Do you even remember that one?
So MySpace was around, but I was in rural Missouri, so I missed it. I jumped in with LiveJournal.
Okay. So MySpace was just, I think it started as like for bands to kind of share their music, and then it expanded to just kind of any topic or whatever. But that was the first one that I really IRC, and then that kind of faded for me, and then MySpace was the next kind of they had some pictures and things like that. So that was the closest. And then tell me about LiveJournal.
So I was living in rural Missouri where we had dial-up internet. It was like and if we use the internet,
you made me. I almost spit on my laptop. I'm just saying.
And if we used the internet, then it we couldn't get a phone call.
You could get a phone call?
Yeah.
I remember that, yes!
Yeah. So, we couldn't use the internet during the day because my parents couldn't get their phone calls. So, anyway, then I went to college and was shown this LiveJournal thing, which is basically like an open, it seems to me, I would describe it now as like an open blog.
That's exactly right.
That we would,
Yeah.
But I don't know if there were privacy settings or whatever, but like I had a group of friends and we all shared LiveJournals. So I don't know, could you just like go see anybody's? Or I don't know. I don't remember.
You could set your individual post to private, kind of like Facebook does, where only your friends see it, or public, or like you. So I remember, because I used to do fan fiction with it. Sometimes when it wasn't ready, I would put it on there, but I would set it so that only I could see it.
Okay.
So that I could continue to edit it and then make it live. Yeah. So LiveJournal.
LiveJournal was where it all started, and then. Did you have anything you wanted to share about Did you do LiveJournal?
I did LiveJournal. Yeah, LiveJournal, and then because we wrote fan fiction, that was kind of, some of it was slash. I'll have to admit. Do you know what slash means?
I don't.
Okay.
Like, why am I feel like old or like not hip.
No, honey, trust me.
What is slash?
So slash fan fiction means usually. So when you have a relationship, like F/M would be female male relationship. So we called it slash because it was generally like male slash, so I wrote male slash. So because of that, LiveJournal cracked down and we all went to, it begins with something else. We went to a different, kind of like a LiveJournal, and then we went to Dreamwidth. No, okay, they were all they were all like LiveJournals, but we kind of as we got more and more risque, and LiveJournal tried to clean themselves up, but
how can you? I don't even think so.
No. But every once in a while they like closed somebody's LiveJournal, and it was like, we're not going to take this anymore, so we went somewhere else. Yeah, we took our fan fiction with us. But that's it. That's my LiveJournal experience.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun.
So I do want to say though. Whenever I stopped live journaling, because I ended up moving away, I printed out my live journals.
Oh my gosh!
And bound them.
Oh my god! Look at you! Wow!
It's the English major in me. I was like, this is my writing,
that's right.
So I printed
you want the artifact.
I did want, and so I still have it printed and bound. I mean, it's like bound like stapled together.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah.
You should go back and look and see,
I
what's
don't
in
know.
it.
I don't know.
No, hey, it's there. You should really look at it and make sure like it's hidden where you want it to be hidden.
It needs to be
before,
hidden.
before you die and someone else goes looking through it. So just saying.
Really incriminating.
Oh my gosh. So those were. So for many years, I spent a lot of time on LiveJournal and then the sequel, Insane Journal. And then Dreamwidth, because that was, again, for me, that was my way of having contacts with people all over the world. And in my case, it was fan fiction, but they had various topics. And were you a specific topic, or was this just basically kind of journaling, your personal journal?
Yeah, on LiveJournal, it was the group of friends that I made whenever I went to college, they were already doing it, and so then I kind of joined in, and it was just it's just kind of what social media is today. Like,
so communication.
I'm eating the sandwich. The sandwich is great,
Okay. So communicating, not necessarily like journaling, sharing poetry or things like that.
No, nothing that deep or substantial. I was just a freshman in college. I was just talking about probably how my roommate sucked or.
Gotcha. And there was a great deal of value in that as well. Yeah. And okay, so that was LiveJournal, and then what was your next?
So this is like super interesting for me. I had a friend who was in a fraternity, and I went over to visit him at his fraternity house, and he like walked me through the fraternity house, which I remember realizing how like unnerving it felt, just because I was like walking down the hallway and everyone's like peeking out like girl, and I was like, oh,
like they were gophering,
right? I know. And I was like, this was the first time ever being in one. So I just remember being like, okay, that's cool. Weird. Okay. But anyways, I was hanging out with him in his room, and he's like, you should see this thing. It's really cool. It's called Facebook. You have to have a college email address to join. And he's like showing it to me. And I remember being just really confused and not understanding. Well, why would I want to look at other people's things? And like, why would I want to share pictures? Or like, why would I want to like tell people what I'm eating for lunch? Like, I don't, I really blew him off. And then we ended up leaving and going to do whatever we were going to do. But like, I did not understand the concept. And then it was like a decade later when I was well into being an adult and a teacher. And then I found Facebook again through people talking about it. And then I was like, oh my God, that was the thing that I was like,
that you blew off,
that I totally just like thumbs down.
And now you're thumbs up.
Now I do thumbs up a lot of things because I love social media.
Yeah,
so if people if you're showing up here to this episode to hear me talk trash about social media,
you're in the wrong place.
You're in the wrong place. I love social media when done in the way I think is correct. But
okay.
Moving along though.
Yeah. So I guess my first Facebook experience was a former college roommate, and I'd gone to visit her. I mean, we were long out of college, and I'd gone to visit her, and she was telling me, oh, there's this thing called Facebook. And she said, you should join, and that way we could keep track. And I said, well, aren't we like keeping track?
What are we doing right now? Does this not count?
I just didn't get it. And so I may have, she signed me up, and she was my only friend on Facebook. So, whatever. And I don't think I really got into I don't know about the purpose, but I don't think I really got into it until much later when family and friends and then started becoming involved, and then high school friends started looking me up, and that's when I really embraced it. I have to admit that I was never really good at it. I would go like full pedal to the metal for 2 or 3 days and then not go back on for oh, I have a funny story. I had a friend who had a baby, and she was showing the baby pictures, and I remember saying, how did I miss your pregnancy? And she said, I totally documented the whole pregnancy on Facebook.
No.
But I guess, those few days were the few days she wasn't on. Right. And your feed fills up so fast that if you miss it, it's just totally, for, 10 months, she was posting about this, and I just totally didn't. Oops.
Okay, but this doesn't go along with our flow of what we're talking about. But so I do find it interesting about these assumptions that we make about like what we're assuming, like, well, if I put it out on social media, you should therefore have seen it. Like, I'm totally not ragging on your friend, but I've done things like that where I'm like, well, I posted it, and I so I don't know.
So let's talk about that, because these differing expectations, right? So someone who is on Facebook a lot might be making assumptions that everyone is, or that everyone's like her, or I'm wondering if that's the case, so so I think people are like me, which kind of half-assed about it, and so I'm never really sure if I post something that does anybody, is it out there or not?
I always get excited when you post something, because I'm like, oh my god, she's on here. Hey,
she picked up her phone.
Whoa, cool. Hello, like.
I know, it's so sad, and I'm trying to be better, because it really is. It can be a great tool, like you say, when used properly. It can be such a great tool. There are people that I have not seen in 30 or 30 years, and we've hooked up on Facebook, and it's just so sweet to see their grandkids, and it's a lot of fun.
I would say so. I like to look at social media as a tool, and whenever I think about it as a tool, like a knife, like it can be used to do really helpful things. It can be used to do really harmful things. It's all how I choose to wield it. And I have to take personal responsibility for how I wield that.
So having said that, let's talk a little bit about how social media has been wielded. So one of the things that I'd like to talk about are some of the things that, I mentioned the idea of keeping up with friends and family. This is a really positive way of doing that. I know that you use it for a number of different reasons. You care to share?
Yes. So I use it. So I'm a part of like a statewide network of people who do acro, and also like my dancing for West Coast Swing. It's like statewide, but it also goes all over the country, and the world. So I use it to connect. Like we use it to organize gatherings, and whenever my sister and my niece and we traveled across Asia. I remember I kept up with you. Because I posted on social media.
Yes, you did. Yes.
Which, by the way, I had to use a VPN when I was in China, because they restrict, you can't get on Facebook in China. So I had to use a VPN and then log in.
Whoa.
It was a pain in the patootie.
I can imagine.
It was such a pain.
Yeah.
But it was also an experience. So, but I used, so I couldn't use Facebook. It was something called WeChat. And I used WeChat to find acro groups in every city I went to. And then I would find an acro group, and I would get on their WeChat list, which is incredibly challenging. And then I would find them, and I would meet up with them. And then that's how I would hang out. I would meet people. I had the coolest experiences.
Look at you.
Getting to know people that I would never have met. There was actually somebody who didn't speak English. I didn't speak Mandarin, but we met up and we did acro together, because it's beyond language. So that was just really cool.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah.
But then I would meet the people in that city, and then I would ask, like, do you know anybody in Taipei? Because I'm going to be going to Taipei next. Oh, and then somebody would eventually say, oh yeah, I do know somebody. And then they'd hook me up with that person on WeChat. That person would get me into the, like, let's say the Taipei acro WeChat group, and then just lather, rinse, repeat all across Asia into Vietnam. And
it was incredible.
It was priceless.
Social media at its best.
It really
Social
was.
media at its
It really
best.
was.
That's fabulous. Yay! Yay!
That's my like little thing.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
So I think that's the biggest part for me. I think one thing that I have found really useful is sometimes I feel a little maybe isolated in terms of, like I'm very interested in holistic living and ways of doing that. And, I'm in my meditation and so I started a group. And you're in it.
I am a member of that group.
Okay, I was going to say, I think you're in it. And
you have a group?
But yeah, and it's
yes,
and it's wonderful because then that's a group where I can post things that I wouldn't necessarily put on my public feed. I mean, it's not that it's bad, but that's my tribe, and I know they get it, and people, they'd be interested in it. Whereas on my other group, there might be a few people, but most of them that I think would be interested, I've invited to the group. So so I think it's a wonderful way. Obviously, the groups are really useful. I also did a charity. I created a charity group a few years back where we were knitting and crocheting blankets for the homeless to be distributed by Haven for Hope. I want to say Habitat for Humanity. Haven for Hope. And so I think it's a wonderful way of making connections outside of your local area, or even making connections within your local area, but you didn't have a venue for doing that.
So that's been really true for me, and also because I'm 38, I just had a birthday. I'm 38 now, and so I am not on the cutting edge of social media. Mm-hmm. I'm not there anymore. Like I've kind of hit my stride with. I have a Facebook and I have an Instagram. I do have access to Twitter, but I don't get on regularly, but that's kind of like, I had to do it for work. But, during last summer, whenever the Black Lives Matter protest, was really intense, I was like looking for information and one of our mutual friends, I kept seeing stuff from her. And so I reached out to her and I was like, where are you finding this? Cause I feel so old saying this. I'm like searching Facebook events for like, like BLM rally. Okay, nothing shot. Black Lives Matter, San Antonio, anti-rape. I'm like trying to search all these keywords for events, and like nothing is coming up. And I'm like, what? Like how? And then I like look at these pictures. I'm like, there are thousands of people. How did they all find it? I'm actively looking. What is wrong with me? And then she's like, so go on to Twitter and search by, and like she tells me there's like to change the search by date, and then like to look. I don't know. She like told me all this stuff. So apparently I was just on the wrong. I'm not where the hip people are. Well,
so here's the thing. So, Facebook has a certain maybe clientele. And obviously there's overlap in Instagram. And Twitter tends to be more political. I mean, well, let me take that back. There's politics on Facebook too. But Twitter, because by virtue of the tweet, the length of the tweet, things are very concise. The information is there. And so often people use that for information, news and things like that. So, yeah, that's kind of where it is. Whereas I assumed it's on Facebook too, but you've got to filter through a whole lot of other stuff.
I eventually found my way into some groups that where they were posting things, but it took me a while to find that, whereas the information was just and like things were developing so fast last summer.
Twitter can respond to that.
And I was unable to keep up with it not on Twitter. Mm-hmm. But that was my first major. I mean, because like the youngins have had their like like they've, I don't even know, like I probably sound old, Vine or like whatever, all that
Snapchat.
Stuff. Yeah. Like I've watched social media pass me by because I'm not of that generation. But the first time it like smacked me in the face where I was handicapped by it was last summer. Mm-hmm. I was like, dang it.
Wow. Yeah. I was going to say, because that's a pretty decrepit pony. Like when that pony swishes by you, then okay, yeah. Wow. Yeah, I use Twitter to basically follow like actors. And
you're on Twitter?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! No. What is wrong with me?
But I don't post on Twitter. I just go there to read stuff, and that's where I get. Like I said, I follow people. Sorry. Yeah. So let's talk about Instagram because you are you post heavily on Instagram.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I use Instagram a lot for acro and dance stuff. But I didn't have an Instagram, but then there was a lot of social pressure to have one because of acro and dance and like posting pictures and videos of my training, and then my partner and I use it for acro. We have like an account for our acrobatic performance company that him and I do together. So like that's how we get a lot of work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like I actually just had somebody reach out to me today, and they were asking because they had, even when it just sits there during a pandemic, like somebody reached out today about a performance at like a museum.
Yay!
You know, so
cool.
it's just it's interesting to have these artifacts just floating out in space, and even during times of pandemic, they're still there.
Right. Well, so I have Instagram, but I basically got it.
I know you have Instagram.
Oh, that's right. Would you tell everyone how you know that I have Instagram?
Because I kept asking you about Instagram and you didn't have one, and we were on the plane together. This is how I remember it. We were on a plane.
Yes.
And I'm like sitting next to you in the chair, and I'm like helping you make your Instagram.
Yes, you were. Yes, you did. Yes. And so I have Instagram.
You do.
But I basically have it because my godchildren are on, like the younger people are on, and that's where they basically might post. And so I got it for them. But then every once in a while, I find, I look for. So on Facebook, I'm like the funny cat video person. Like that's that one and that one, the BBC announcer where the kids came in, like he was zooming long before the rest of us were zooming.
Yes. Yeah. And so the kids come in
while he's on TV. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the woman comes in and like. That is such a good
Sometimes
video.
I just, when I'm feeling low, I get that video going. And so that's, that's Facebook for me is I don't put a whole lot of political stuff. It's not I'm not trying to teach people things, and I just want to, make your day a little brighter, and I want my day to be made a little bit brighter. So funny, uplifting, motivational stuff. Well, Instagram is like chock full of that stuff. I love Instagram for that. I belong to a number of groups, and they just send me things, and so it's really nice for that, and it's really good for pictures. So and then there's Pinterest. On your Pinterest?
I'm not on Pinterest.
I am I'm not quite sure how. I'm just kind of figuring out how Pinterest works. but I have now I have like all these pictures of like African goddesses and stuff. So I have folders for that, and then folders for clothing and floors. I have one day I'll send you my Pinterest thing. I have plenty of any type of floors, tile, all of that, because one of these days I'm going to get my floors done. So
I love your floors.
Yeah,
I honor and support your.
Thank you. So Pinterest is really good for just like that, and recipes. I know, go figure. And so.
I found it interesting. So my acro partner, he's also my life partner. We are working on a new skill. It's called a courbette, and it's where I do like a handstand on his hands, and then he throws me up into the air, and then I stand in his hands.
Yeah.
And we were looking on YouTube for videos because we don't have a coach down here with anywhere near us. Also, we're in a pandemic, so we can't exactly, like go hang out at a gym full of people. So we are like trying to do as much as we can on our own. And we were searching, we can't find anything. So then I get on Instagram and I search #courbette, and like, bam, like all these videos pop up. And so it was that moment of like finding the right tool for the right thing, and then knowing where it was, like I didn't do last summer. That's when I was like, where is all the info?
But that's how you learn to know that you have to look a certain way. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, so this is going to sound so total because I'm talking to a vegetarian, but okay. I wanted to go hunt feral hogs.
What? You are this like fierce.
Well, thank you.
Huntress.
Well, except I didn't know how to field dress a hog.
Yeah.
But you know what? There's YouTube.
Did you learn how to field dress a hog?
I learned how to field dress a hog on YouTube.
Did you do it?
I haven't yet because I haven't caught one, but I went hunting, but there were no hogs to be had that night.
I lived in rural Missouri. If you see a feral hog, you shoot it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, there's no hog season. It's every season is hog season.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's like you can go. I learned how to, if you get a net front, lace front wig, so how you can put that on so it looks like it's your natural hair. And I learned how to field dress a hog. YouTube, God bless America.
I just love all the facets of you. I'm like imagining you hanging out, and I don't know. This is just my image of you. You're like collaging and drinking tea, and then there's like, I don't know, classical music on in the background, and then you're watching YouTube videos of field dressing a hog, and you're just like being you.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you. That's so sweet. That's so sweet. And I can do that because of YouTube. Because YouTube showed me how to clean my rifle. I mean, YouTube. I mean, so I don't know. Is YouTube considered social media too?
We can consider it.
Okay, we'll consider it. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, you don't. So I remember back in the day where you would have to pay, $5 or $6, send someone a check to get a manual for your. Your I don't know, vacuum cleaner or whatever. Now you can go on YouTube. You can go. I mean, you can obviously go on the internet and just go to companies and stuff. But you can go to YouTube and you can find exactly the video of someone using your vacuum cleaner, telling you how to take it apart and change the belt or whatever. It's just it's like I want to weep sometimes. It's just like life is so much easier because of that.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
And I think maybe stepping into another territory, because information and community is so accessible via social media, there are connections that we can make that I don't think would have ever happened before.
That's exactly right.
So right now I'm thinking about like people finding information about like witchcraft or any sort of like spirituality like we have. Like you tell that story about finding the wee moon or the
Sage Woman.
The Sage Woman magazine, and that was probably like cutting edge.
Yes, exactly. That's how you got your information.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Exactly.
And now it's just we're doing a podcast about it.
Exactly. And just we're going to be having some interviews coming up soon. And one of the people that we talked about how she learned about witchcraft on social media. And so it's just amazing how much of a fabulous tool it can be.
It can be.
So you mentioned social media kind of being like a knife, and that it's a wonderful tool when you're cutting your tofu.
Yes, or your feral hog.
Or lathering butter on your biscuit or whatever. But it can also be used to harm people. And so similarly, social media can, people often flame it because, of what they're hearing in terms of the negative aspects of it. I'd like to start with one of the things that because I teach. You mentioned the idea of creating community and that it can be a wonderful way of, creating a safe space for people to work. But you're also creating a community with a bunch of people that you don't necessarily know and who could be misrepresenting themselves, either out of fear or whatever, or maliciously. And one of the things that I think is so sad is hearing about young people for whom social media is basically their only connection, and because they may not necessarily have developed some good boundaries, it can be harmful. And some have been, driven to depression and suicide because of bullying on social media. And really quickly, I just want to say, I think so much of that is that fact that anonymity is like people allow themselves to behave badly because they can. There's no accountability. No one's making them, toe the line.
Yeah, that's super tough. It's super tough, especially because, I grew up without it and then have it. So maybe, and I'm sure that's not true for everyone my age, but maybe I'm bringing in different values or just previous experiences to it. But the concept of I don't even know how it would be to grow up with it and to always have been able to filter. I mean, girl, Like, let's talk about, you remember taking the film and having film developed and hope that your eyes are open in the picture. Right?
Yes.
Or like I'm like excited about like, oh, like we went to the blue bonnet field and like and then like the picture is like 3/4 my thumb, right?
Yes, exactly.
But now it's like, let's take 1,700 pictures, sort through all of them, find one you like, and then edit it. You know, and my niece is like a ninja with her editing app, her photo editing app. So I just can't imagine. I can't imagine what it must be like to live with that sort of pressure.
Oh yeah, that idea of so one of so I mean, first of all, that you can create this kind of perfect image of yourself and put that out there, and the maybe the pressure to only present yourself. I mean, to not be open and honest, but to share. Oh, so let me tell. So one of the things that I think is really fascinating. There's a meme that's around called the 7 Deadly Digital Sins, and just really briefly, I just want to kind of talk about that because I just think it's so cool. So for anybody, if you just Google, 7 Deadly Sins, or 7 Deadly Digital Sins, I think it'll come up, or 7 Deadly Social Media Sins. So the 7 sins in the digital world, and these are the regular 7 Deadly Sins, but they connect it to a certain type of social media because of that. So pride is Instagram. So that idea of you pictures and
hashtag notice me is on it.
Exactly.
I've used that hashtag on Instagram.
Okay. And then Facebook is envy. You're always, it's like you and your perfect children, blah, blah, blah. Wrath is Twitter.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
And we'll come back to that when we talk about some other negative aspects of it. Sloth is Netflix.
Yes.
Which isn't really social media, but we'll let it slide. And then greed is LinkedIn. Gluttony is Yelp, which I have to say, I work my Yelp app over.
Do?
Oh yeah.
I didn't even know Yelp was still around.
Oh, it still is. And it's not just food, but now they have, you can get contractors on Yelp. You can,
Really?
They're trying to be like TripAdvisor and Home Advisor kind of wrapped up in one. Okay, well, whatever. It still exists.
Sorry.
Anyway, and then Tinder is lust. But I want to say that because we talked about the fact that there's so little accountability. And because of that allows people to misbehave. So for example, the political flaming that was going on it's still going on, I'm sure, but that was going on last year, during the election, the primaries, and then the actual presidential election, and just the incivility, just how people could just be so nasty to each other because they can. No one's there. No one, it's not like you can't be nasty to your next door neighbor because he lives next door to you and he might steal your garbage cans, or
exactly.
You know what I mean? But there are no holds barred. It's sad.
And my worry, I mean, I know people are like writing, dissertations on this. So, and I certainly am not in that position. My worry is that somehow they take that habit they've cultivated online of just doing whatever they want, and then they translate it into reality,
into the real world,
and then we're left with really dangerous, deadly consequences.
Yeah, and people just not understanding the social rules anymore. The social contract where you kind of give people the benefit of the doubt because hopefully they'll do the same for you. There's none of there. You don't see that. Let me take that back. I found that it was that there were places where those were not the rules. So, political flaming, and then the idea of being the social media being used as a locus for terrorist groups. I mean, that's a seamy underbelly.
Yeah, and I've dived down into some podcast holes where I have because I don't have any direct access to QAnon people in my life, but I just find it incredibly harrowing and frightening
to hear the discourse that you see on these sites.
To hear. So I just kept hearing about it in the news, and I was like, I don't even know who these people are. Like, I'm not running into these people. Like, what's going on? And so like using podcasts as a resource to educate myself. about them and their use of Facebook, and then leaving and going to Parlor, which was like taken down and then put it back up. And then
Oh my gosh. Oh, see, I totally missed that. Okay. Gotcha. Wow.
Yeah, the server wouldn't have them on their server anymore. So but then like someone else picked them up.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. And which leads then to this, the that whole thing for the past few years about fake news. And, I don't even want to, I mean, just the idea that it can be perpetuated so readily on social media. I mean, just on the internet in general, but AP, for example, their server isn't going to be a little bit more careful because of their reputation. So a website might be more cautious, whereas on social media, there's very little accountability.
I'd like to share, if that's okay, about like a personal experience I had
Sure.
as someone who didn't grow up with social media and then has it as an adult. And so I have it, I'm on Instagram and Facebook primarily, and I'm pretty active on it because I'm connected to people for my acro and dance communities, and then like, in addition to like friends, and then like our circle, and like all of our spiritual connections, like all over from the stuff that you and I have done together. So whenever I went through a divorce, I never once posted about it on social media. And in fact, so this was really interesting. Whenever I left, I didn't post anything on social media, and then eventually I wanted to change my relationship status. So but I didn't want people to see, because you know how like it'll say so and so broke up, or like it like posts the life event. So I like figured out how to go in and deactivate where they would show the life events. Then I changed my life event. And then I went back in and made it public so people could see it, but only if they like looked for it. Not that it alerted people.
Yes.
Because I didn't want to deal with people.
You didn't want it to be a thing.
I didn't want to deal. Although I did wish that I could, because I really hated like running into people and they'd be like, "Oh hey, and you're like, it's like the gift that keeps on giving.
Right, exactly.
Nah.
Okay.
Yeah. but it was just this really interesting experience of like going through this and being so plugged into social media, and then like having it and being like, well, crap.
Yeah. I get that, because it's so funny because, like I said, I post funny cat videos, and inspirational, images of the moon with some nice verbiage. So when I separated and divorced, it didn't even occur to me to put it on Facebook. It's like that would be so. I recognize I was raised by my mother, who said, "Oh, girl, you don't put your business out there." Like, I mean, that would be for her. That would be the equivalent of standing out in the street and just screaming to people, "I'm getting divorced," right? And you just don't do that. That
is like social media. Put your business out there.
My mother actually called it showing your butt. But she said, "No, you're not showing your butt, are you?" That's how. So it just goes how that's another thing. Privacy, in terms of your life, is now negotiable. Right? It used to be, back in the day when I was your age. I feel like such an old woman. But, no one knew your business. I mean, unless you told them your business, right? But now it's hard to keep your business if you have any sort of presence on social media.
And I would have liked to have used social media as a tool, because maybe connecting with some people who had been through it, or sharing authentically and appropriately about the grief I was feeling, so that others might have not felt so alone.
Or to learn from it.
And so I wouldn't have felt so alone. And I also I remember feeling really gross, because I was in a really really precarious financial situation because of the things that went down. And so I was working all of these different jobs.
I remember. Yeah. Like you never had a moment.
I never had a moment. So, because I had a full-time teaching job, but then I was teaching dance classes. I was teaching acro classes. I was doing dance and acro privates. I was working for another company on my lunch break. Like, I mean, I was just, my days were,
Nonstop.
yeah. And I did what I did because I needed to do it. And I don't do that anymore, thank goodness. Pre-pandemic. Now really don't do it anymore because of the pandemic. But I remember posting to social media, come on down and let's come on to acro class. Here's this really funny video of us doing this thing. And then like, oh, like, here's me at this dance competition. Like, look how much fun I'm having. Come to my dance class next week,
Wow.
And I remember it feeling gross. Like I felt like I was selling myself, and people can sell themselves all they want.
Yeah.
But I felt like I was selling myself in this way that was just, I just remember feeling so gross about it.
Wow.
Because it wasn't all the way, it wasn't really true. I mean,
it was like a disconnect.
Yeah. It was like this much true, but it wasn't really true. And I hated it. I hated doing that because it just felt so inauthentic. But I needed to do it because I needed butts and seats so that I could have my classes, so I could earn my money, so that I could,
pay your bills,
keep my house, and keep the lights on.
Yeah. So it's like the image, the picture was the picture, but everything behind the picture was different from, that's amazing. It's amazing that you lived, well, first of all, it's amazing that you lived through that. And it's amazing how we can do that on social media and just not misrepresent, but just totally cast it in a different light. Yeah.
I mean, if anybody had looked at that and been like, wait, isn't she a full-time teacher? Doesn't she also teach
when does she have time
dance class? And she's all, and like the veneer is only so thin. And it's like, well, what's going on? Like, there's a shit show going on in her life.
But meanwhile, it looks like, dang, she's living large. She's doing acro. She's dancing all over the country. And wow. Meanwhile, it's like, okay, do I have enough to pay my light bill?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm sleeping in my car, like in between dance class.
Right, I remember.
Yeah, I carried a pillow and a blanket in the back of my car so I could take a 15-minute nap between dance class and acro class.
Yeah,
because I was so tired.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And social media does. Again, that's like those 7 deadly sins. It's like we're kind of conditioned now. We have to show our best sides. And so I wonder if you were still active on LiveJournal, if that would have been an opportunity for you to, maybe open up a little bit.
Yeah, I guess LiveJournal was a little more authentic, but that's because I don't know. I journal, and that was a journal.
Exactly. So we talked about some of the negative aspects of social media. I'd like to just end our conversation today with one really positive aspect of it, and that's how we use it in our circle. So we're totally online. When our group first started, we sent letters and sent postcards and the whole bit, but that's
I can't even imagine.
Right. No, we don't do that. We don't do that anymore. So we're totally online. We did have an active number of groups on Yahoo, which went belly up last fall.
And no shade to Yahoo for sorry you went belly up, but thank God they went belly up. I hated us on Yahoo. I hated it.
We used to call it Yahel.
It was. Oh my God. Like these stupid chat lists. I mean, it was just so overwhelming and disorganized as a product of threaded conversations on social media.
Well, and I'm sure a lot of people had that reaction. And so, I mean, it's kind of like, it was kind of like the Counter-Reformation or whatever. They lost so many people to the Protestants, and Yahoo people just scattered. And so I think they might have changed directions. Anyway, because they closed, we started working with another platform called Band US, which has been so much fun because it kind of works on the same type of mechanism as Facebook. And so this is an instance of how the social media can be such a wonderful tool. It keeps us connected. We can have our events. Right now they're all on Zoom, unfortunately, but I'm sure later when things open up that we'll be able to actually have real events again one day. And it's a way for us to make connections and to kind of do the same things that we do on Facebook, post photos and pictures and have polls and things like that.
I find it, as someone who hated.
So tell me how you really feel about that.
Oh my gosh. If I didn't love our group so much, I would have been gone because I hated it so much. Like opening up my email and it'd be like 72 unthreaded emails and people are replying out of order. Like someone would
yes.
have read the first 3 messages, but then not the last 7, and then they respond, and then
and then they don't change the subject heading.
Oh my gosh. Oh. I mean, I would open up my email and like instantly go into anxiety mode.
Yeah.
It just, anyways. So having us being over on band is just so much better. And it's not perfect, but it's just so much better, and it's private. But I love that, especially during a pandemic, I'm able to have such a personal connection to these people that I would not have. And because like I'm not friends with a lot of them on social media. Also, some of them are older and don't have the social media accounts or aren't active on them. So it's been really great. And just being able to post like little pictures or videos and like to see people posting things like that and sharing it, it's been so wonderful. And it's threaded.
Yes, it is. It is. And it's a way, and I think because Yahoo went belly up and because of the pandemic, a lot of women who weren't that active on it are really diving into it and using it and recognizing that this is a way of keeping connections going. It's not going to take the place of face-to-face conversations, as we know.
Yes.
But it's, it's not a shabby second place, right?
It's really nice. And I think it's something I'm looking forward to keeping and using as a supplement to our in-person stuff.
Exactly. We're going to close this episode with an excerpt from Arty's Together We Are. And so this is a funny story. My students, they keep me young, and they also let me, keep me from being a total like old fogey, because they'll say, "Oh, you really," something will come up, a conversation, and they'll say, "Oh, you really got to hear this artist or that artist." And so I think last year students were telling me about Arty, and I might have listened to a little bit of his work, and I thought it was really neat. And then apparently something a new song of his just dropped in February, and so they were just like losing their freaking minds over this. And as I was thinking about our topic on social media, I was listening to some of his stuff, and I heard the song and I thought it'd be perfect. And so I mentioned Arty to Leilani.
Yes.
And your response was,
I about fell over. Because I'm a trance baby and I'm an EDM baby, and I love Arty so much. So the fact that you're
I think I said in the text, "Have you ever heard of Arty?"
And I'm like, what? I mean, if life could have a record scratch sound, that would have been the moment. I'm like you are telling me.
Well, I'm not really. I'm like, I think I know of this artist or whatever. But I just think, first of all, it's exciting music, and I love the beat. It's easy to dance to. But I just think he's an exciting artist, and he has like a side group too, and I like a lot of his stuff.
How would you rate him on Yelp?
Well, I don't know, but on Spotify I have saved. I listen to This Is Arty Radio or whatever.
Oh my God, I love you so much.
Yeah, so when you're sitting there grading papers or whatever, you just need something like Arty.
You're listening to Arty. You're watching a video of skinning a feral hog.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and drinking my herbal tea
as you write fan fiction.
And that's right. Slash fan. That's right, baby. Okay, it's a full life, but someone has to live it, right?
Thank you for living it.
Okay. Arty is a Russian DJ, young. I think he's in his early 20s. He's not super old, and he records as Arty, and he also records. He has a side gig as with a side band called Alpha 9. And I think the song that came out that like my kids are losing their shit over is a song that is like totally appropriate for the pandemic and pandemic life, even though I believe he actually wrote it before, but he just thought that this is just a wonderful song, and the kids are really loving it, and I can't remember the name of it right offhand, but if you Google him, it's going to be the first thing that comes up. He's a great artist, and I think you'll enjoy him. And what's your favorite song of his?
My favorite song for about the past year is Glorious by Arty, and it's just a wonderful song, and it makes me really happy. And at my birthday party, which was socially distant on the rooftop of a parking garage, we did like a drive-in dance. I played Glorious.
Yay!
I love that song so much.
Yay. It's a great song.
By the way, he's 31. He was born in 1989.
Oh my gosh, he looks so young.
He looks so young.
He looks so young because he's cute as a button. I knew you wanted me to say that. he's a little cutie. So, alrighty.
I go to you, reach for me. I'll be the one you can hold on to. I miss you, I see. I miss you, I believe in. I miss you,
Thank you all so much for joining us as we ventured through the mirrored maze of social media. We hope that you enjoyed our time together and that we could find some positives and maybe some learnings about the use of social media as a tool and how we choose to use it. If you would be interested in supporting us, you can rate us and review us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. We're also on YouTube. We post the audio there, so you can follow us there. You can also support us on Patreon, and we post unique content that you can't find anywhere else there. We hope you've enjoyed the magic that has unfolded here at Witchy Wit.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Witchy Wit Podcast.
Email us at witchywit123@gmail.com. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Get exclusive content and support us on Patreon.
Stay witchy, y'all!